One way to create some easy backgrounds is to use block inking. This is a fun technique where you use your acrylic blocks to transfer watered ink to create stunning, beautiful gradient backgrounds. I'm pairing this with the new Catherine Pooler Designs Celebrate Spring release to create some beautiful spring-inspired cards. I'm Verity and welcome to my YouTube channel and blog Pretty Little Button, where I make paper crafting tutorials for the everyday crafter. So I'm taking inspiration from the Happy Mama pattern paper pack, which came in the Celebrate Spring release. I'm taking inspiration from this because I'm using the colours that coordinates well with the pattern paper pack. So we've got Be Mine, Coral Cabana, Samba, Tiara, Cummerbund, In the Park, Minted and Twilight. And these colours really coordinate beautifully well, and I'm going to use them in the cards that I'm going to create today. I'm also going to be using the Fresh Picked Florals stamp set and die set, and this has got some beautiful sketchy feel flowers to them that I'm going to use to help embellish the card. So I'm just going to show you initially me creating those cards. I'm just going to show you to begin with the stamping first. So I'm going to be stamping all of these florals down, and I'm just going to share some of my tips on how to speed up your stamping when you want multiple stamped and die cut images. So I have positioned all of the flowers that I'm interested in using and placed them on a piece of white cardstock in my Misty platform. I'm then going to stamp these in the Twilight ink, and I'm going to use this because it's a nice soft grey and it creates a beautiful look to the florals, especially when I pair it with some of the colours later on. I have stamped this on about 5 different panels of cardstock because I want multiples of all the florals. And then I'm using the coordinating dies just to die cut these out, keeping a bit of washi tape over the top just to position it and keep them in place as I run this through the die cutting machine. Now once I've run this through my die cutting machine and I've done this with all of my panels, I'm going to make sure that I keep one of those negative die cuts. So the waste of your card panel really. This is going to help me create like a template in my Misty to be able to then stamp the second layer of these stamps. And what I'm doing is I'm just adding some strips of washi tape behind the back of the panel, behind where all those open spaces of those dies are. This is because it adds a little bit of adhesive on the other side that I can temporarily stick my die cuts down into, so that when I stamp on them they're going to stay put, just for that time being. And this again allows me to make sure that I have got consistent stamping that's going to be stamped well. So once I've done this, I'm just then inputting all the pieces back into the place, and then I'm just positioning either the layer over the top, or some of them don't have a second layer and I didn't realise until after I'd put them in. Majority of the florals do have some extra layers that you can stamp as well, so I'm then placing these more solid layered of stamps over the top. I can then ink these up and then start colouring them. So I'm going to be using a selection of the colours, of the ink colours that I mentioned earlier on, to stamp all the florals in and also some of the leaves. Once I've stamped this, if I need to, I can re-stamp it again if I didn't get a great first impression, because I'm very prone to not conditioning my stamps. Specifically when it comes to the large solid stamps, I really don't condition them, and it's not great. If you condition them, you'll get perfect stamping each time. But because I do have the Misty, I become lazy and I just restamp it several times. But you do waste ink, so really, if you don't want to waste your ink, condition your stamps first before you stamp them. And once I've done one stamped die cut, I can then remove it and then place another stamped die cut over the top, and I've got them in the exact same position that the solid layers are on the lid of my Misty, and I haven't got to worry that it will have shifted or moved because I'm using this sort of template design to keep them in place. So now we've done all the stamping, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I created the backgrounds, and this is using your acrylic blocks. So I have a circle acrylic block here, and then what I'm doing is I'm adding some ink directly to the acrylic block, just smooshing the ink pad down, transferring the ink onto that block. So here I've used Tiara, Coral Cabana and Samba, and I'm just creating a bit of a gradient. I'm then going in and spritzing the block with some water, and I'm doing it quite liberally so it beads up. I can then just press a piece of cardstock over the top, and I just hold it there in place just for a bit to transfer the ink. Now, because I'm not using a large amount of water, I can get away with doing this on sort of Nina cardstock or any of your other cardstock, your Catherine Pooler cardstock. You don't necessarily need watercolour cardstock for this. If you use a lot of water, then you've got to be prepared that it will take longer to dry, it could peel, and it may warp. Now, I didn't want to waste that ink that was left over on that acrylic block, So I gave it another spritz again, and then I put another piece of cardstock over the top and pressed it down. And this time I'm going to get a much more lighter version of that original print. You can keep on doing this until you run out of ink or water, and the more water you add, the lighter it will get. But I just did 2 prints from each block. So I'm then using a rectangle block here, and I'm using Minted, In the Park and Cummerbund. And I'm again then just spritzing it, and then I'm placing a piece of cardstock down over the top. Now I did also place a piece of white paper down over that, just to really press it down and give it a good smooth without worrying about the ink getting on my hands, but it really didn't happen. Now the more water you add, the more it will blend and move the colours. The less water you add, the less those colours will blend. The less ink you have on there and the more water you add, the paler it will be. And the less water you add, the more texture you might also get in your actual print as well. I then switched to a long thin rectangle, and this time I used B Mine and Cummerbund, and where the inks then merge you get a beautiful purple colour, sort of blends and creates itself on its own, because the colours, obviously the pink and the blue, are next to each other within the colour wheel, so they will blend and create that beautiful soft purple. If you are interested in any of the products used in today's video, just have a look in the description box below. You'll find affiliated links at no extra cost to you. Then I used another rectangle block, and this time I'm using Tiara with some Cummerbund. And then this creates its own beautiful green because of course the colours yellow and blue blend and create a green colour. And this one is where I used more water and I created a beautiful soft blend, and it's just absolutely stunning. To then turn these into cards, I used the Mother and Daughters sentiment stamp set from Catherine Puller's Celebrate Spring release. And I have trimmed all of these panels down, added them to a white card base, and I foam mounted them just to give them a bit of depth and dimension. And then I'm stamping the sentiments in blackjack ink. These sentiments are beautiful, they are really lovely script sentiments, they've got some beautiful sayings in there, and you can pair them up in different ways to create your own kind of sentiment and verse. The blackjack really stands out on these watercolour backgrounds. It's not a true dark black, it's got a little bit of softness, and I think that goes really well with the watercolour panels. So just taking a look at them all here once I have actually stamped them all, and you can see I'm getting a really beautiful cohesive sort of card pack here that if you wanted to gift this as a pack you could do. I am then just playing about with the position of all the florals on these cards, and what I like to do is I like to have a real good sort of play about with them first, move them onto different cards, different backgrounds, see do the colours mix, are they the right size for the card, do they fit with the sentiment, and then once I've done them and placed them all I can then adhere them down. Now I finished most of these off with adding some sequins from Catherine Puller's designs, either the Helsinki sequins that came out in the new Celebrate Spring release, or I used some of the older ones like Portland or Pierre. Make sure you have a look at your sequin mix, you can pair them with all these colours really well. I've already shared one of these on my blog today, you got a sneak peek of them last week. So let me know in the comments below which one is your favourite. I think mine is the vibrant blue and yellow background with the daughter, I'm glad you're mine. That really just stands out and really sings to me. If you're new to my channel, why not think about subscribing? You can hit that bell icon to be notified when my next video is up. Until next time, happy crafting.